The voice came from the back of the studio. Keanu Reeves' smile froze. His head turned sharply. And Jimmy Fallon had to stop the show because that voice was impossible. It was a Tuesday night in November 2024. The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon. Studio 6A at Rockefeller Center. The familiar rhythm of late-night television, monologue jokes, celebrity banter, musical performances. 300 audience members settled into their seats expecting laughs and entertainment. Keanu Reeves was the guest, promoting his latest film. Sitting in the chair across from Jimmy, relaxed and smiling that gentle, enigmatic smile that had made him beloved worldwide. He was telling a story about a stunt that went wrong on set, and Jimmy was laughing, that big, genuine Fallon laugh that had defined a decade of late night. The cameras were rolling smoothly. The Roots were ready with bumper music. Everything was perfect television. And then, from somewhere near the studio entrance, an elderly voice called out, "Johnny?" Not Keanu. Johnny. The name almost no one used anymore. The name from before the fame, before the movies, before the world knew who he was. Keanu's smile didn't fade gradually. It vanished. Like someone had flipped a switch. His entire body went rigid. His head snapped toward the back of the studio so fast the cameras struggled to follow the movement. Jimmy stopped mid-laugh. His hands, which had been gesturing animatedly, froze in the air. "Keanu? You okay, man?" Keanu didn't respond. He was staring at someone, near the studio entrance. His face had gone completely pale. His mouth opened slightly but no sound came out. The audience sensed the shift immediately. The comfortable laughter died. 300 people falling into confused silence. Cameras were live when Keanu Reeves' smile froze. He turned sharply toward the back of the studio, and Jimmy Fallon had to stop the show because that voice was impossible. Standing near the studio entrance, partially obscured by a production assistant and a security guard, was an elderly man. Maybe 75 years old. Wearing simple clothes, khaki pants and a button-down shirt. Gray hair, weathered face, eyes that were wet with tears even from across the studio. Jimmy stood up from his desk. Blue note cards scattered across the surface, one falling to the floor. Folks, hold on a second. Keanu, do you know that person?" Keanu was already standing, moving without conscious thought. His chair scraped backward. He stepped off the raised platform where the guest chair sat, down onto the studio floor, walking toward the back of the studio like a man in a trance. The Roots stopped their quiet background music. Questlove's drumsticks paused mid-air. Every camera operator, every producer, every person in that studio understood they were witnessing something real. The elderly man took one step forward, then another. His hands were shaking. "Johnny," he said again, his voice cracking. "It's me. It's Sam." Keanu stopped walking. He was maybe 15 feet from the man now, close enough for the cameras to capture both of them, far enough that the distance felt impossibly wide. "That's not..." Keanu's voice was barely audible, caught by the boom microphones overhead. "You can't be here. You died. You died 42 years ago." Jimmy stopped mid-joke. The entire studio froze. To understand what happened next, you need to understand what happened in 1982. Keanu Reeves wasn't always Keanu Reeves, Hollywood icon and beloved action star. In 1982, he was an 18-year-old kid in Toronto, trying to figure out his life. His parents had divorced when he was young. His father had left when Keanu was 3 and never came back. His mother was doing her best, but money was tight and Keanu was angry, at the world, at his circumstances, at the father who abandoned him. He dropped out of high school. He was working odd jobs, dishwasher, construction helper, whatever paid cash. He had dreams of acting but no idea how to make them real. He was living in a basement apartment that flooded when it rained, eating ramen most nights, wondering if this was all his life would ever be. One night, coming home from a late shift at a restaurant, Keanu saw an old man sitting on the curb outside a convenience store. The man was maybe in his 30s then, though to 18-year-old Keanu, he seemed ancient. He was holding a sign. Homeless. Hungry. Anything helps. Keanu had $12 in his pocket. Rent was due in 3 days and he was $8 short. He should have walked past. He needed that money. But something about the man's eyes stopped him. Not desperation. Resignation. Like he'd already accepted that the world had given up on him. Keanu sat down on the curb beside him. "What's your name?" Keanu asked. The man looked surprised that someone was talking to him rather than dropping change in a cup. Sam Mitchell. "I'm Johnny," Keanu said. He rarely used his birth name, but something about this moment made him want to be honest. "You hungry?" "Starving." Keanu took him to the convenience store and bought him a sandwich, a bag of chips, and a Coke. $8. Exactly what he needed for rent. But watching Sam eat that sandwich like it was the first meal he'd had in days, Keanu didn't regret it. They sat on that curb for 2 hours talking. Sam had been an engineer. He'd lost his job when the factory closed. His wife had left him. He'd started drinking. Lost his apartment. Lost everything. He'd been on the streets for 6 months. "You got dreams, Johnny?" Sam asked, his voice rough from years of cigarettes and cold nights. "I want to be an actor," Keanu admitted. "Sounds stupid, right? Kid from nowhere thinking he can make it." "Doesn't sound stupid to me," Sam said. "Sounds like you got something worth fighting for. Don't lose that." "I lost mine. Gave up. Easiest thing in the world to give up. Hardest thing to keep trying." They talked until the convenience store closed. Then Keanu walked Sam to a shelter 3 blocks away. Before they parted, Sam pulled something from his jacket pocket, a small brass compass, old and tarnished. "My grandfather gave me this," Sam said, pressing it into Keanu's palm. "Told me it would always point me home. But I don't got a home anymore. You take it. When you make it, and you will make it, you remember this night. You remember that somebody believed in you when you were just a kid on a curb." Keanu tried to refuse, but Sam insisted. "Keep it. And when you're famous, when you're successful, don't forget the people sitting on curbs. The people the world gave up on." They shook hands. Keanu promised to come back and check on Sam. Maybe help him find work, help him get back on his feet. But 2 days later, Keanu's landlord evicted him for being short on rent. He moved to a friend's couch across town. Life got chaotic. A week turned into 2 weeks. 2 weeks turned into a month. When Keanu finally made it back to that convenience store, back to that curb, Sam was gone. Keanu asked around, the store clerk, other homeless people in the area. Nobody had seen him. 3 months later, Keanu heard the news. A homeless man named Sam Mitchell had died of pneumonia in a shelter downtown. No family to claim the body. City buried him in an unmarked grave. Keanu was devastated. He'd meant to go back. He'd meant to help. He'd failed. He kept the compass. Carried it with him through every audition, every rejection, every small role that slowly built towards something bigger. When he got his first major film role, the compass was in his pocket. When he became famous, it was in his trailer. For 42 years, Keanu Reeves carried that brass compass everywhere. But he'd never forgotten the guilt. The man who believed in him had died alone, and Keanu had been too late to save him. Subscribe and leave a comment, because the most powerful part of this story is still ahead. Except Sam Mitchell hadn't died. The man standing at the back of the Tonight Show studio, tears streaming down his face, was very much alive. 75 years old now, but alive. Keanu walked closer slowly, like approaching something that might disappear if he moved too fast. How are you here?" "They said you died. The shelter told me you died." Sam smiled through his tears. "I almost did, Johnny. That pneumonia nearly killed me. But I survived. And when I got better, I got clean. Really clean this time. Got into a program. Found work. Found a place to live. He paused, his voice breaking. But I never forgot you. The kid who bought me a sandwich when he couldn't afford it. The kid who sat with me and talked like I was still a person worth talking to. Why didn't you find me? Keanu asked, his own voice thick with emotion. I've been famous for 30 years. I would have helped you. I wanted to help you. I know, Sam said gently. I watched every one of your movies. Read every interview. I saw you become exactly what you said you'd become. But I was ashamed, Johnny. Ashamed that I'd been so low, that I'd needed help from a kid who had nothing. I didn't want you to remember me as the homeless guy. I wanted you to remember me as the person who believed in you. Jimmy Fallon was standing beside his desk, tears openly streaming down his face. The audience was crying. The Roots were crying. The camera operators were crying. This wasn't entertainment anymore. This was something sacred. Keanu reached into his pocket and pulled out something small. The brass compass. Still tarnished after 42 years. Still the same compass Sam had given him on a Toronto curb in 1982. You told me to keep this, Keanu said, his voice barely steady. You told me it would point me home. I've carried it every single day for 42 years. Sam's hand flew to his mouth. A sob escaped him. You kept it? All this time? Every single day, Keanu repeated. He held it out. But I think it's time to give it back. You said you didn't have a home anymore. But you do now. You have me. Behind the scenes, Fallon made a decision that defied every producer's expectation. Jimmy walked out from behind his desk. Not the performative walking he did for comedy bits. This was different. He approached Keanu and Sam, and then he did something unprecedented. He gestured to his director. Cut the scheduled segments, Jimmy said clearly, loudly enough for the audience to hear. Cancel the musical guest. We're staying right here. The producers in the control room started to protest through his earpiece, but Jimmy pulled it out and set it on the floor. He turned to the audience. Folks, I don't know what the right thing to do here is. But I know that whatever this moment is, it's more important than the show. Keanu, Sam, would you come sit with me? He had crew members bring out 2 more chairs. He, Keanu, and Sam sat in a triangle on the stage while 300 people and millions watching at home bore witness. Sam, Jimmy said gently, tell us what happened. After 1982. After you recovered. And Sam told his story. The shelter program that saved his life. The construction job he got. The small apartment. The years of staying sober, staying employed, rebuilding a life from nothing. He talked about watching Keanu's career from afar, going to see The Matrix in theaters and crying because the kid from the curb was on screen. Reading about Keanu's kindness, his generosity, his quiet acts of charity, and thinking, that's the same kid who bought me a sandwich. I wanted to reach out so many times, Sam said. But what would I say? Hey, remember me, the homeless guy? I didn't want to burden you. You'd already given me everything, belief, dignity, a reason to keep trying. Keanu was shaking his head. You were never a burden. You saved my life that night just as much as I helped you. I was about to give up on everything. I was angry and lost and convinced I'd never amount to anything. You told me I had something worth fighting for. You did, Sam said simply. You do. Jimmy looked at both of them, tears streaming down his face. What happens now? Keanu stood up. He walked to Sam and gently took the old man's hands, placing the brass compass into his palm and closing his fingers around it. You keep this now, Keanu said. Because you're not alone anymore. Your family. Sam pulled Keanu into an embrace. The studio erupted. Not in applause, but in that collective release of emotion when 300 people witness something that restores their faith in humanity. Jimmy stood with them, his arm around both men. This is what matters, he said to the camera. This. Right here. Not the jokes. not the celebrity. This. Share and subscribe. Make sure this story is never forgotten. After the show, Keanu arranged for Sam to move into a comfortable apartment in Los Angeles. They have dinner together every Sunday. The compass sits in a glass case in Keanu's home, but Sam visits it often. Jimmy Fallon kept that episode exactly as it aired. No edits, no cuts, just the raw moment when television stopped pretending and became real. And every time Keanu gives to charity, every time he's photographed being kind to a stranger, he's honoring the man who sat on a curb and believed in him 42 years ago. The man who came back from the impossible.